Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thanks for tuning in to Stationeers. So, let's get going. I asked all of you what I should work on this episode. What I think I'm going to do is to work towards pressurization. So that means trying to get everything that needs to be done before I pressurize the base done. So things like hydroponics would be very, very good, at least to get the piping laid out before pressurization. I'd like to reorganize my top level a little bit. So I did have a suggestion here. Oh boy. Turtle Sandwich mentioned, and probably others, to be honest, that I could put a frame up here. And that way I could better set up my lights and sensors and just that sort of junk. So that's a very good point. So let me just quickly dispose of this here. And then what I'm going to do is to work towards building the airlock. That shouldn't take too long. And then setting up really any other systems that need to be in place before the grand opening. The grand opening, of course, I just want to add, it won't be completed. Like, I'm talking, we're not going to have the Taj Mahal day one. It's just enough to keep it pressurized. Basically, we determined that most of the insides of the base aren't going to need to change because once you have it laid out, where you pressurize it, it's possible to vacuum out a base again, but it's very annoying. So another thing I'm going to do is wait to do the heating and cooling logic and wait to do the pressurization logic until the base is sort of ready to go. Alright, so the idea here was we could put sensors and lights here, and I think that's a very reasonable idea. So we still have the correct colored cable, and we can hide this. I don't love hiding cables because of anything ever, if they catch fire or something, it's kind of hard to fix them, but alright, we're gonna hide it. And that means that this top frame can become a window once more. Another project that I probably need to do, although, I loathe it, is to move these solar-powered panels further away from the base. To set up an independent structure some distance away so that they're not blocking light, I guess. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious why I'd want them moved. Should have thought of that ahead of time, but I didn't, so, you know, we're stuck fixing it. And that's the nature of Stationeers. Don't be fooled. Unless you have a guide and you're following the guide verbatim, line item for line item, you're gonna run into situations where you're like, oh, it would have been better this way. And I suppose that's true in real life when you're building a house and stuff like that. Alright, so let's see. I said this could be window again. And I'm slowly drifting downwards. I guess we don't need to throw the glass in the window yet. We're gonna need a whole lot of silicon. And then what's gonna be cool is, yes, I need to do a crafting room in the basement. But another, what will be cool is I can start enabling the beta branch, providing it's stable. And why is there cables in there? Oh boy. Construction woes 101. But yeah, what I was saying is I can enable the beta branch and then start doing some of the beta stuff. Or whatever else you might find useful. It will be, as long as there's interest, sort of up to you all about what you'd like to see. So let's get an airlock going. It's obviously not complicated stuff. Oh, this does not need to be a window anymore. Probably not this either. Either, or. And don't fall too far. Cool. I don't know why I just did that. I guess that frame right now doesn't need to be solid, but yeah. Alright, so these are going to be composite walls. I also have to decide what kind of walls I'm going to want. There's a bunch of different options for wall styles. So, I can always change it up. Oh, I'm out of plastic. I feel like Superman sometimes. Until I smack into something, and then I feel very, very fleshy and very, very weak. Realizing that there's just a thin amount of whatever between me and the very, very scary atmosphere of Mars that would want to kill me. Explode my lungs and suffocate me. Sort of in the most unpleasant manner possible. Alright. These frames here were just here to allow us to stick stuff on the wall, so I'm gonna break those down, just because it seems like that's something I'm doing right now. I suppose that's also true of the frames below it. So the base will look a little bit cleaner, as you can see. It's a little strange because I have a lot of stuff floating. All of this will be behind walls and things like that. But yeah, this is what my control room looks like. This last battery could be hydroponics and the lounge. Yeah. Sort of those two rooms. It's not one room, so it's not great dedicating it like that, but it will do. Alright, so taking a look. Let's go get the airlock done. This airlock is really no different than the airlock I've ever done. I've already done this one. It is the same, exact same principle, but if you need a reminder, we're gonna want a console. Iron and gold. Where's my iron and gold? Probably over here. Gold, iron. Good enough. And I could have it be linked console. You don't necessarily need just one console to drive an airlock. You can have multiples and have a primary and a slave. So I think that's what I'm going to do. That's more useful in multiplayer. And the reason why is if someone is... You can get, like, cycle stuck, I guess. But yeah, I have the resources to do sort of the primary and slaves, so I'll do that as well. I wonder how my... Oh, is this just large?
Power critical. Power critical.
Yeah, I want a nuclear one, not just a large one. Alright, I probably cranked out a few too many consoles, but surely I'm going to use them for other purposes. There's a lot of, like, light switches and things like that. We can use consoles. So, that means I have to figure out where I want the console on the outside and on the inside. Now, the problem is there seems to be... cabling and stuff, and I probably wouldn't want consoles on the floor. I could put consoles on the ceiling. That would almost be amusing. Yeah, this is a bit of a head scratcher. There's like not a good place for it. Do I move? You know what? Forget the slave idea here. I'll have a slave one for the inside. There will be two ways to get in and out of this base, so I'm not all that worried. Alright, so the next up is the advanced airlock. We'll crank two of these out. And I'm going to need some glass. Alright, we are out of copper. I can feel the day that I'll be able to stop being Darth Vader, breathing through a mask. Alright, that's one advanced console, and 2. And we had 1 piece of glass over here. Done. Next up, this has to be on vitals, right? And we happen to have a vitals cable, like, literally right overhead, so that works out nicely. So let me get my red cables and turn them blue, or green. Whatever color vitals are. It's green. Alright. Now just crudely wire these together. Yeah, this was the slow way of going about it. My bad. No, not junction, just the normal straight cables. Thank you. We're also going to want a gas sensor and active vents and a whole lot of other kahooey. So before I wire up anything else, I will print up that kahooey. What is kahooey? I don't know. It's a noise. So copper. I am in desperate need of copper. Is that true? Do I have copper hiding somewhere? You know, I should probably be using my furnace, shouldn't I? I made it so that I could capture gas. So let's... I will print one thing and then we'll do a run of copper. Gas, oh, what am I? Sensor. Alright, so we're gonna need 1 sensor. And then we're gonna need, let's see, a light. A flashing light. They're a little annoying, but I don't know. They add a certain pizzazz to the system. And a normal light. Actually, we have normal lights, don't we? We have... Yeah, we do have some. Okay, we'll set these up. In order to do that, I'm going to need to weld... So we'll put the gas sensor here. That will detect whether or not there's air in here. And the flashing light will have right up above the console. It's going to be annoying, but I don't know. If you guys hate it, I can always get rid of it. Let's see. Just a little wall light here. And drop that light for now. You know what? I will want eventual lights here, so I'll just, I don't know, I'll pop one in here. I'm just putting it here to, like, not to actually install it, but just to save it for later. Okay, so the green console, flashing light, wall lights. All right, active vents is what we need, but whoa, that was a jump. When did I become Michael Jordan? I don't know. So if we're doing a run of copper, switching the belts, I have volatiles, I have oxide, so I don't need to go mining for that. Let's see, we will do a run of gold as well. Off the top of my head, I do not know how these things smelt, like what benefit I get from smelting copper and gold, but it doesn't matter, I'm going to capture the gas anyway. Alright, so that is a whole lot of ores to smelt. So what we got to do over here is make sure everything is good and ready. The pumps are off, yes. The current is empty. I guess it doesn't really matter the overflow tank, but it happens also to be empty. The CO2 filtration will be... Actually, this filter is linked to, I believe, the power controls, so I don't need to actually do this. Let's see if that's true. Nope. Apparently it wasn't. It should be. But I'm going to focus on just the task at hand. Okay. Turn the vent on. Get rid of all the extra atmosphere in here. I just dropped the copper. Yeah, let me turn on my light. I dropped the copper in the corner here. I'm putting more in than the bare minimum because I'm going to do a big old run. And I don't want it to... I don't want it to... Come on. There we go. We have combustion. I don't even know what I've put in so far. Let's just keep adding fuel to it. Like a gung-ho Boy Scout. Until it gets nice and hot. Okay, first up, copper. I don't like how that temperature's dropping, but alright. Open the fold. Ta-da! Let's go with gold next. And if you're curious about the temperatures, all you gotta do is Stationeers furnace. Just Google that, and it will give you all of what you need to know about this smelting. So as long as my temperature stays above 327 Celsius, I can smelt. And we're well above that. And as long as my pressure stays below, like 100 MPa. But the thing about 100 MPa, that would burst my pipes. So there's really no way of getting that until before I combust. So the exception here is, right now I'm doing gold and copper, which smelts at low temperatures. Iron requires a slightly higher temperature, but I have no iron. Copper and gold can be as low as 327 Celsius, but iron is 627, so 300 degrees hotter. And then, of course, lead you can almost smelt in the in atmosphere. It requires, you know, pretty much no temperature. Yes, I could have melted all this together and done one big old batch. I just didn't. I have it as small bar batches. There's really... The danger if you do a huge batch is you run the risk of the furnace getting too cold while everything melts down and then not being able to actually smelt anything. You'll have a bunch of unsmelted ore. Well, that was the whole run. Now I'm sort of curious what... I could turn this vent off. What we generated as a result. So I'm going to furnace pump this out. I switched the... Yep, that went from 10 MPa to basically none. And then on top of that, it was pointed out to me that this says temperature. So that's really furnace pressure, and this is furnace temp. Okay. And we can leave the furnace pump on until it hits the big old 0. But let's see what's going on in here. So, we generated mostly pollutant, a little bit of nitrogen, a little bit of oxygen. There's a little bit of unburned volatiles that hasn't combusted. So, yeah, I mean, we're generating gases that we otherwise wouldn't have had. So the pressure is 0, the temperature is something. I think that's just the furnace is still hot, but it doesn't have stuff in it. The metal of the furnace is still hot. I could be wrong. And then, what temperature is this? It's too hot. So I'm going to leave that to cool down for a bit. You know what? I can introduce it hot. Why not? All of the CO2 has already been pulled out. and filtered, so this filter is not doing anything. So let's go ahead and introduce this new gas to our tanks. The reason why I'm not adverse to adding in hot gases is everything's going to cool down slowly anyway, because we're in Martian atmosphere. And we already had a lot of gases in here. So it put the pollutant up a little bit, because there was more pollutant, and the pollutant made up the vast majority of the gas. And then, I guess, a little bit of volatiles. Yeah. Okay, we can leave those pumps on. I turn this... Oh, that one's off. Turn everything off. Close the door. I can just analog read the pressure of that tank, and basically we're going to keep this volume pump on until that tank's empty. Alright, so now we have a whole lot of gold and copper smelted up, and let me stack that all into one big bar of stuff. And then we can get back to what we were doing. In fact, I do know I need active vents. Did I have one? No. I have consoles, logic IOs. Okay. I guess.
Light off.
Oops. Alright, we will need 2 active vents. So, a traditional regular airlock versus an advanced airlock. The regular airlocks don't keep 2 atmospheres separate. They, the gases will mix. So, a regular airlock assumes that one side of your setup is vacuum, which works in space and works on the moon. Does not so much work on Mars, because Mars, of course, has atmosphere, you know, that we don't necessarily want to introduce into the base. So, these airlocks, this whole airlock setup is not really going to work until the base has pressure, mind you. So, I'm just setting up because it's something we're going to need once we pressurize the base. But there's going to be a big whole checklist of things that we need before we get that pressurization going. Do a 4-way corner. And then the other issue is, how does this green connect to the green up there? So I'll run it along this wall. And I'll set it up as a junction. Oh, there's a light over there. Okay, so this is going to be a 4-way junction. And then all these things will need to also be labeled so that I can tell what they are on a logic network. And it doesn't really matter where we tie into the green. In fact, oops. So we're right on top of it here. I'll just tie in right there. Perfect. That frame doesn't even need to be re-welded. Everything that's on the ceiling is already placed. So let me go analyze. These vents should turn on and off. They should be powered. Yep, that's powered. That's powered. These aren't. Because this green cable doesn't connect, I think. I thought I put the corner down there, but clearly I hadn't. Okay. Now everything turns on and off. There'll be errors and whatnot because I I don't have piping on them. But so yeah, this airlock is just about all set. Got no logic yet. One more thing, actually, this slave monitor here needs to be plugged in as well. And I can wire it up, but because I'm basically in vacuum, it's not going to operate, it's not going to work kind of the way you'd want it to. So if I go, I haven't shown the slave monitors or anything like that, so let me demonstrate. So internal and external pressure, we'll just have 2 kPa because we're working with Martian atmosphere. I'm gonna need to label a bunch of things, so what should this be called? Front airlock external vent. I'm going to have 2 airlocks. This is just one of them. Front airlock internal vent. And then front airlock external door. Front airlock internal door. Front airlock light. Let me just copy this front airlock here. Front airlock gas sensor. Front airlock flashing light. What else do I have here? The console. Front airlock master console. And front airlock slave console. Alright. That's everything that needs to plug in here, I suppose. So, it's looking for an exterior door and then an interior door. I'll probably just wire this up, and then I'm not going to want to keep it, but the exterior vent, the interior vent, the gas sensor. That's all it needs by default. And then we'll have it toggle the flashing light when it cycles on. And make that one a slave to the master. Which means, like, and none of this is going to work until I throw some walls up in here. So I can do that. So let's see. Composite wall. There we go. Now, interestingly enough, no, the bottom is not airtight. Alright, so we got walls everywhere. We just need to add some plumbing or piping to passive vents. So that's what it will look like, more or less. It's a pretty clean design. This could be on.
Light on. Light off.
What else am I missing? The plumbing, yes.
Light on.
Now, eventually, I'll probably have very much the same sort of setup I had in here, which is to keep the airlock's air in a pressurized canister. So that way it's not changing the base's overall pressure. For now, I'm just going to do passive vents, because I don't need to be collecting Martian air and putting it in a canister. That just doesn't really make sense, because then I'm just going to need to vacuum empty out the canister at a later time, and that just is more work.
Hunger. Caution.
Oh, shush. I just had some fries.
Jetpack on.
Let's see. Because this is temporary, I don't really care exactly what it looks like. So we're just going to slap down some passive vents. It's just so that it can work. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm trying to add functionality to it. Do we run out of iron here? I suppose we did. I was wondering why I got such a limited amount of pipes. Corner and corner. Well, this is going to have to snake around a bit, and I'm not going to have enough pipes for it. Thanks, slave console. Alright, let's go make some more. Oh, that's lead. Do I really not have iron? That seems unbelievable to me. But I better start believing it, because I think it's true. Okay, cool. As much as I'd like the gas, the convenience of just doing that now is very much in my favor. Alright, soybean oil, and I might not be able to make the recipe correctly because the volume, I forget the cutoff volume of soybean. Oh, alright, this makes fries, good. I'll make a little batch of fries, because I'm waiting for the iron anyway. Ta-da! It's magic. Munch some fries. Now, of course, I can make a whole variety of food eventually. For now, it's just going to be fries because they're convenient, and I have all the ingredients. The hardest thing to do is probably raise chickens, in my opinion, as far as food goes, because every crop is the same, except for chickens obviously behave a little different. Because they're very sensitive to, you know, starvation and vacuum and whatnot. Alright. The rest of the soybean oil I'm just gonna plop away.
Jetpack on.
And collecting my fries. Come on. Ta-da! Spare pipes. Now, unless I'm wrong for some reason, this ought to work. So, cycle. It's gonna depressurize me first.
Light off.
And that worked. And then it's gonna pressurize. It would even work faster if I just have it be 0. So I can go do that. Basically tell it, don't even bother to pressurize it back. And then we're in. Into a dark, dank, atmospheric setup. Okay, and then the inverse.
Light off.
Now I like these doors better. They're obviously more expensive, but the reason I like them, you can fit large objects through them more easily. If you compare, let me just demonstrate the advantage of the blast doors. So let's say I have an air scrubber. or an oxygen tank or something like that, right?
Jetpack on.
It's a cumbersome object. And actually, sometimes when you flail around, it will clip into things, smack into you, and bust your suit. I can't get this thing through this door. It's just not going to work, right? Just, it's too big.
Jetpack on.
There is almost every item in the game can fit in a blast door. That's why I like blast doors better. Traditional airlocks are pretty decent too, but blast doors give you the largest opening. So a regular door will be able to fit an oxygen tank, just not that comfortably. And of course, you don't need to have your airlock a 1x1. As you can see, it fits, but it's tight. The advantage of a 1x1 is it opens and closes quickly, so it's not a lengthy process to repressurize or anything like that. And then on top of that, let's just stay outside and take a look at this slave console. All I have it doing right now is sort of reading what the inside is doing. And then if, let's say, we had done this and there's no button here, yeah, that's the problem. I probably don't want that to be a slave. The one issue with the blast doors, they don't have like a door switch. So there's a few different ways to accomplish setting it up. So that you can open and close if you ever cycle it and you're not inside. So I wonder if this works. I actually haven't tried this, setting up two consoles to run it. So the exterior door, interior door, exterior vent, interior vent, sensor, light. Alright. Yeah. So now it's working. And if I was that was interesting. Cycle to interior. Did it cycle to interior? I don't know. This might take some tweaking. I don't think it actually cycled to interior. I think it cycled to exterior again. No, it did. And then I can call it back. And ideally you'd have 3 of these consoles so that there is no state in which it's at that you couldn't control it. Meaning if you were locked inside, you need a console inside. Although it doesn't ever really lock inside. So I guess what you do is you need... Well, if it runs out of power and you're inside of it, you are a little boned. I'll give you that. So now I can tell it to cycle to exterior, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so it's useful to have multiple consoles for the blast doors. The advantage of course, the traditional door like this, you can cycle it through the keypad here. So that's just one consideration you need to make for the blast doors. And if I was being smart, which I should be, I would need to add one more console for the inside. So when you're inside, you're able to cycle it too. But yeah, there you go. Didn't really get a whole lot done this episode, but I am slowly and surely working towards the full pressurization of the base here. If you have any tips, tricks, feedback for me, or suggestions about what I should build next, just drop me a line, and I do hope that you tune in next time. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll catch you all later. Adios.